the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live.
BoxingVoice.com here. We're live with Rick Ramos. Rick Ramos is a boxing trainer based out of Chicago, works with WBC super lightweight champ Jessica McCaskill. Rick, thank you for your time, brother.
No, thank you. What's going on?
Nothing much. Now, you've been working with Jessica for several years now. Amazing story. I've personally been following her, being originally from St. Louis, but training out of Chicago, and being a Chicago kid, I've been following her. She's been on the big stage a couple times now. Talk to us a little about that experience. You guys had a title shot against Katie Taylor almost a year, well, a little over a year ago. It was a couple days ago, a year ago. So talk to us about that, and now her being world champ, and basically the journey to getting her to this point.
Well, it's crazy, but hold on one second. It's crazy. You know what? When we first signed up for that fight, I had we had Katie Taylor on our sites. We knew some people who knew her. We were watching her as an amateur, and we were waiting for her to turn pro, and we were just looking at her just to see what she would do. She started making a lot of noise. She started working with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. She started gaining a lot of popularity. She was obviously popular in London, in Ireland, but then she got some traction in the UK, and she started getting big. So, she's the same age, maybe a year younger than Jessica, and I felt like if we caught her early, I figured she, might be able to catch her making some mistakes, and we might be able to pull up a massive upset. So once I kind of told my inner circle and kind of told the Chicago boxing scene that, I was going to try to grab that Katie Taylor fight, literally, like, everybody laughed at me. They told me I was crazy. So we started going at Katie Taylor, started going at Eddie Hearn, started going at just anything to really get their attention. And, we got creative, Jessica, had some ideas. I had some ideas, and we got under her skin a little bit, and we made the fight happen. And a lot of people, we were a massive underdog. A lot of people were like, Jessica's going to get hurt. This is a bad decision. Things like that. So my career as a coach was definitely on the line. If Jessica would have got blown out, we would definitely not be doing this interview, and, I'd probably be doing something else, but it worked out. It led to a relationship with Eddie Hearn and myself. It exposed Jessica to the world, and that was the thing that we needed, and it proved that Jessica belonged at a world-class level. So it worked out for all of us,
Absolutely. Now, I know how you basically got the fight. To tell the fans how social media played a huge part in getting that Katie Taylor fight.
Oh man, well, we would make memes. We would make kind of like skits. We did a lot of things. We made memes, we made skits, and I definitely read every article that was written about Katie. And there was one thing that actually got a little bit under my skin, and Katie Taylor had said, they had called 20 female fighters and they all turned her down. And I'm like, man, we couldn't get a fight. Like, I felt like we would have fought anybody. And I'm like, man, that's a real fight. I didn't know that opportunity was so close. So once she came out with an article saying that they called 20 people, I literally got super mad. And I was like, well, you must not know my phone number, because, my phone didn't ring. And we've been asking to fight you for 6 months. So finally, a guy named Gavin out in Ireland, he writes for, I think he was interning at the time for the Irish Times, and he called me, and we got a nice little, he wrote a nice little piece, and, that definitely got some traction. And next thing you know, I got the phone call, and Eddie Hearn reached out and asked if, actually, I think Eddie Hearn actually said that I had a big mouth. He said, that Rick Ramos, you got a big mouth, he won't stop talking. And I think at that moment, I was like, we got the fight. And it was probably a week later he had called, and we got the fight.
Now, going into that fight, how much training camp would you have? Because Katie Taylor is a huge attraction,
Mm-hmm.
a great female fighter, a great world champion, very humble, very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
But I followed her career since the amateurs. I think Jessica, to this day, she just fought on the Canelo undercard. To this day, I think Jessica has been her toughest opponent, definitely toughest fight, from my personal opinion. So, how long before would you say before the fight did you guys get the call?
Um, I think, first of all, like I'll tell every fighter out there, and if you don't know this, any fighters watching, or any managers watching, or any coaches watching, always stay ready. I'm not saying stay 100% ready, but stay 65%, 70% ready. Jessica has always been in the gym literally from the moment I met her till today. She's probably taken collectively 1 month off in the last 4.5 years. So she's always been in the gym, and we were training for another fight, and a fight had just actually we just won the ABO title, so we were in decent shape. And she was staying in the gym, and I said, let's stay in the gym because I have a feeling if we get this Katie Taylor fight, they're not going to give us time. I was guessing they'd give us maybe a month, and I thought that was going to be generous. But they started hinting about the fight maybe a month and a half out. Maybe I think somebody wrote something about, hey, Jesse McCaskill is on Katie's site, is on her sites, and that she just started mentioning her name, and Eddie Hearn was definitely mentioning my name and Jessica's name. So I felt like, we got to get ready. It's gonna happen, and again, I'm 90% sure that everyone in Chicago was kind of like, there's no way. And then, like I said, we got the call, and we were already probably about 70% ready when we got the call. Katie had just fought, like literally like a month, like literally probably a day or two after she had just fought. They booked us to fight in a month, like maybe 4.5 weeks. So, and I know she had stitches, and I'm like, man, this is our time. She's not going to be sparring much, she's going to be in and out of the gym. I just thought they were gonna just. She was kind of she just went 10 rounds, I think, with Sanchez. So I knew she was a little beat up. No fighter is ever 100% when they go in the ring. They're always 90% or whatever. So it was a great time for us to take that fight, and it other than us not getting a win, it was a great night.
Now, obviously, you guys did come up short, but like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I do feel that Jessica was the toughest opponent for Katie to this day. I
Mm-hmm.
was just in New York covering Canelo, and of course, got to see Katie fight. But it's kind of funny because the trash talking got you guys a fight, came up short, but it was on a huge stage. I remember the fight it was weird. It was on a Wednesday, but
Yeah.
Showtime streamed it on their YouTube, on all their social media platforms. So I thought that was huge because it was like a 4 or 5 hour stream. The stream is on YouTube, it's available. So that was a huge opportunity to be on that platform, given that Showtime does have a huge following. And then the relationship continued because you got another call from Eddie, and um that landed Jessica on the very first American DAZN card in Chicago.
No doubt. You know what? My only issue was like the Showtime was like came in within the last 24 hours before that fight took place. So it wasn't like I felt like if there would have been some notice on the Showtime thing, it could have been bigger. It definitely could have been bigger. But Showtime came in in the last 24 hours to stream it. Sky Sports, which and most boxing people don't know. They show a lot of boxing. A lot of people didn't even hear of Sky Sports until Katie Taylor in the U.S. And if you're not a soccer fan, you definitely didn't hear about Sky Sports. So it was all like last minute. It definitely everybody in Chicago knew about it because I promoted it crazy, and I felt like we got a lot of love, here in Chicago. But the time, it was a Wednesday. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. A lot of people were working, so it was just like a funny time. You know what I mean? It just wasn't. It wasn't the best time for the U.S. fans to catch the fight. A lot of commentators, Sergio Mora, Sugar Ray Leonard, a lot of those guys, when we brought up that we fought Katie Taylor, a lot of people didn't even know that, and I was just like, man, that was that was a phenomenal fight. And yeah, you know, we were definitely Katie's hardest fight to this day. You know, nobody gave her, you know, I don't think anybody's won more than 2 rounds against Katie. And I feel like we had that fight. I feel like we won 4 rounds. If not, we had a draw. That's how I feel. And I think a lot of people agreed with that. I don't really think we won the fight, but I definitely think we at least got 4 rounds. And I think that a draw would have been great.
Well, you know, it's truly great to hear. Basically, a trainer be honest to themselves, because we'll see fighters, you know, might win 3 rounds in a 12-round fight, and the trainer's like, "Man, we got robbed. It was a robbery." I remember.
That drives me nuts.
I remember that fight vividly. You know, being from Chicago, I like to support Chicago fighters. Funny story. I had a nice little bit of money on Jessica in the fight, whatever the case may be. But I remember, obviously, it was a 10-round fight. I gave Jessica 4 rounds, and I think it was like 3 of the early ones, and then like a middle round, something like that. But it was hilarious because watching the stream, hearing you every couple seconds, the commentators would be like, "We apologize for Rick's language in the corner." You were obviously very devoted and dedicated and emotionally tied to the fight. You've been training for a number of years, but obviously Jessica, probably the biggest fighter that you worked with, if I'm not mistaken. Is that entirely correct?
I think I was part of other people's camps, but you know, I worked with Adrian Granados in the beginning of his career. I worked with helped out Sean Simpson, and he, you know, 2012 Olympian, and you know, Jimmy Sandoval, who had a decent career, but I was kind of always in the shadows, in the back, you know, helping these guys, and you know, so yeah, as far as full control, yeah, Jessica was definitely my first full. You know, I took full control of her career. I just said I got to be in control of all of it, and you know, that's what it got us, you know, a WBC title.
Obviously, the WBC title came October 6th in Chicago. When Eddie first announced the card, I remember Sean being announced on the card, Jessica being announced on the card, but no opponent was named for Jessica. Now, it was later in the promotion when the opponent came, and it was noted that it was a title opportunity, WBC title. Can you talk to me about the title opportunity, how that came about? Did you guys all along know that a title could have been on the line? And the weight, because when you guys challenged Katie, it was at lightweight, and then the title that Jessica won was at super lightweight.
Right. So Eddie had announced that they were coming to Chicago, and to be honest with you, I didn't hear from him at first. There was all kind of stories going around, you know, and everybody just assumed like, hey, well, Eddie Hearn and Rick kind of got along, maybe that Jessica will get a look. And to be honest with you, I never got a phone call from anybody. So I did an interview probably right after the fight was announced, and you know, and I you know, I said how I felt. I felt like, you know, if Eddie Hearn didn't call me, I felt like I would have been insulted. I would have been like, man, I felt like we would have looked foolish too. You know, I think everybody thought we were and assumed that we were on the show. Like I said, we didn't get a call, and then all of a sudden, Eddie reached out to me the week of, and he's like, hey, come to the press conference when they officially announced it in Chicago. You know, I'd like to see you guys. And really then he didn't say like we were on the show. He just wanted to see us. So me and Jessica went. And he asked me what I wanted. He's like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want like a real fight, or do you want to just showcase Jessica, you know, kind of show her skills? And, you know, if you don't know Jessica, man, like Jessica's up for like the craziest challenges. So I said, yeah, no, we want a real fight. Jessica was standing right there. You know, Eddie Hearn, there was a bunch of people trying to talk to him. Eddie Hearn walked in a room, came right up to Jessica and myself, and he's like, man, good to see you guys. What do you guys want to do? And the first thing I said is, we want a real fight. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I think they brought up Bustos. I think her name was first. He's like, how would you guys fight Bustos? And we were like, yeah. We're like, hell yeah. We were like, yeah, we'll do Bustos. No problem. We weren't even thinking about a belt. We just wanted a name. You know, we knew that Bustos probably won maybe 1 round against Katie, and we knew that we won at least 4. So I know like I could use that as a nice gauge. I'm like, oh, we could beat Bustos 7 rounds to 3. I was confident. And then he's like, okay, let me work on it. And then they brought up some other names, some, I don't know, maybe C- level fighters later on. And I was just like, man, I'm not, those girls will blow through. We didn't want to do anything like knock somebody out in front of Chicago. We didn't want like a C level fighter. We wanted a B minus, a B level, or even an A minus name. And that's what we wanted for Chicago. I felt like we could have got hyped, and we did get hyped. And then Eddie's like, well, how about this? How about that? And they kind of dropping names, and I'm like, oh, all right, that looks good. That looks good. We want that. We'll do that. We'll do this. And we're easy to work with. Jessica will fight anybody as long as the situation's correct. We'll take a fight, any fight. So I would say 3 weeks out, Eddie's like, well, how about Erica Frias? And I said, okay, let me look at her. And I'm like, yeah, all the Argentinians pretty much, in my opinion, fight the same. So I was interested. I'm like, yeah, we're interested. Let me just look. I'll double check. I looked at the fight, and I'm like, yeah, we'll take that fight. Then he calls me back. He's like, how would you like to fight for the WBC title? I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, done. What weight? 140. And I was a little nervous about the weight, but a lot of people don't know that Jessica won the Golden Gloves twice at 141 in the amateurs, and she won it at 152 in St. Louis. So Jessica's used to fighting a little heavier, but I don't think a lot of people knew that. So 135, she's never fought before, only in the pros. So 140 was okay for us. So we took the fight. Obviously, we won. It was a great opportunity, and let me tell you, when you win that WBC belt, a lot of other opportunities start happening. The WBC starts calling you. They start including you. Other coaches respect you, as even myself as a coach. Jessica's level of confidence has risen. Everything, opportunities rise, your money rises, everything changes when you win the WBC belt, for sure.
Now I have to ask, I was ringside for that fight. Going to the decision, I felt like Jessica won it pretty clearly. Were you nervous at all to hear and know?
No, and I'll tell you why. This is one thing that I don't think that any coaches ever talk about, so I'll talk about it. The WBC, they came out with a new rule that every 4 rounds they give you the scores. So we knew, Jessica didn't know that she had won going into the last and final round. Other than a knockout, we would have won as long as Jessica finished on her feet. No matter what happened in that last round, I knew we won. After the first 4 rounds, they gave me the WBC. The commission walks over and they give it to you. So I think we won them. Maybe I think it was 2-2 after the 4, or 1-3 Jessica after 4, and after 8, once I saw the 8 scorecards after the 8th round, they gave me the scorecards again. I was comfortable. I didn't even look back, and I didn't tell Jessica. I wanted her to show real emotion. I wanted her to be authentic, and we knew we were where we were. And I like all these other, in every single WBC fight, the commission and the WBC releases those scores to the corners, so they know. I sometimes they act like they don't, or they don't talk about it or whatever, but they know. I knew. And I just kept it to myself, and I was happy for Jessica, and I was happy for the city. So I let her have that moment. She deserved it, and that feeling is crazy. You see, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Now I remember, obviously, I spoke to yourself. I did speak to Jessica after the fight.
Mm-hmm.
The emotion just can't be described. Obviously, being world champion for the first time, the WBC being a coveted belt, that's huge. Now, obviously, this opened, like you said, a lot of opportunities for yourself and for Jessica. I sent you an article one morning, maybe like a month and a half ago or so, and it spoke about Jessica being the front runner for Cecilia Brackers, who was the main event for HBO's last show 10 days ago, actually. The fight fell through, but can you kind of like walk us through what happened? How serious were the talks? And I mean, because obviously that was a higher weight class, but were you ever certain, or did you truly feel that the fight was a done deal at any point?
So let me go back on the story. So this was probably in May. I think it was May. maybe April. I think it was April of last year, and Cecilia's people reached out to us for sparring with Jessica. They wanted to bring us out for a month, and have Jessica spar, and that was something, that we were interested in. But I also kind of felt like, you know what, I didn't really want to do the sparring so much because I was like, man, we could fight her. I don't know if, like, obviously we didn't win a belt at that time, and I was just like, man, I think we should probably pass on this because I have a feeling, they could be putting their foot in the water with us. They could be testing us to see if we're a match for her. And then, we turned it down, and, we had other obligations, and we were possibly going to fight in the Bahamas. It was just so much other stuff going on, and we passed. But I was glad we passed. Now, first, before I answer that question, I respect Tom Loeffler. For the people who don't know Tom Loeffler, he's Cecilia's promoter and Triple G's promoter. So I respect him. I respect Cecilia. So with that being said, I'll tell you my story, So we got, somebody was saying, actually, I didn't even hear about it. I just, people were calling me, texting me, like, you sent me the article, and some other people sent me the article, and people were like, calling me saying, hey, I think Tom Loeffler is going to call you. So Tom did call me. He did call. I saw the article, and I think it said that Jessica was a possibility. And then maybe a day or two after, Tom called me directly, Tom Loeffler, and we talked, and he said, are you interested in the fight? And I said, yeah. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. So we beat Erica, right? So we had a rematch clause with Erica. So we can't just agree to just fight, So, there were some other issues with that, and we're working with Eddie Hearn. We have other people involved, and they did offer us the fight. We agreed to a certain weight. I think it was 144, 145. I think it was 144, and everything looked good, and the money was there. Almost there. We were right there with the money. And then, because of, we had, the truth, we had this deal, we had the rematch with Erica. We legally couldn't just jump into another fight. I had communications with Eddie Hearn directly. Eddie called me in the morning and asked me what I wanted to do. And I really, really was interested in that fight. So you got to look at it like this, if Jessica lost, I don't know what that does for us. The fight would have been at 147. So we would have still had the 140-pound, the super lightweight WBC title. We would have still had it. So it was very little risk as far as that's concerned. But, as far as credibility, unless we would have beat her, it might not have looked the best. It might not have, we might have seemed and looked maybe a little thirsty or a little too eager. So, the fight just fell through. I think, Tom Loeffler, with respect to him and his offer, he had given us probably 48 hours, maybe a little bit more than 48 hours to decide. And like I said, I was on the phone with Warriors, our promotional company. I was on the phone with Eddie Hearn. I was on back and forth with Tom Loeffler. So, I mean, I was talking to the guys who can make the decision. I don't want to sound like a douchebag, but I don't really like talking to matchmakers, and I don't really like talking to other managers. I talked to Tom Loeffler directly. I talked to Eddie Hearn directly, and Leon from Warriors. So I don't really talk to matchmakers and all that stuff. But it was a lot. It would have been a lot to get done legally, and there's a lot of promoters involved. It was just kind of a mess. Bad timing. So long story short, our offer expired and they went another route. And that's the story. We didn't turn down the fight. They didn't avoid us or anything. Like, I was upset because I felt like I needed a little bit more time. And, I felt like, I don't know. I like to give my way, I guess. And I felt like, I was upset that I couldn't get the deal done. And, it was just too many people involved. Definitely. Too many hands in the pot, for sure.
Now, obviously the purses were released. Cecilia took home 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
Alexandra Lopez took home 70. Do you feel that financially the offer was respectable from Tom and from Cecilia's peoples?
To us, to Jessica.
Yeah, to Jessica.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, please forgive me. Like, I don't want to disrespect, Tom Loeffler or Cecilia and reveal their offer, but I will say,
Absolutely, of course.
I will say that their offer, um, in the opinion of Eddie Hearn, myself, Jessica, and Leon, the president of Warriors, we all agreed that the offer was generous. So it was a very generous offer, and it's a great way to end the year, and it was a generous offer, no doubt, no doubt. It was very generous.
The main reason for me asking isn't really to get personal, but more so because a lot of people question the credibility of women's boxing in today's day and age. I remember, like you said, it might have been 24 to 4. I don't even think it was 48 hours before Jessica's fight with Katie that I'm like, all right, man, I got to find a stream. Fuck, like, how am I going to watch the fight? I was nervous.
Right, right.
Since then, in the last year, we've seen a lot of women's boxing be televised. A lot more names being thrown around. I feel like in the last year, I feel 2018 was a great year for women's boxing. So that was more so the reason of me asking. But basically now, so does Jessica have a date lined up for that rematch?
Um, Not quite. So I talked to Eddie maybe a week ago, and he's planning on putting Jessica back on in February. He didn't give me the details, so I think we still have to work that out. But and I don't know against who, and Erica didn't commit to the rematch yet. But I think her deadline is in April, like the first week or so of April. So she has to respond, and she's got time, obviously, but she has to respond. And you know what? I mean, we'll definitely respect and honor our contract, but we want bigger and better things. I don't think that fight was close enough to do the rematch. But if that's what they want to do, then the things that fight's got to end differently. I think we have to knock her out. Um, but to get back on your topic about, like, women's boxing, and I think Katie Taylor, with all due respect, I think Katie set the tone. I think Katie brought female boxing back to life. I think she deserves a lot of credit. I respect Katie. I respect her team, Brian Peters, her manager, and obviously Eddie Hearn, who we are working with now. So Katie Taylor changed the game. She brought women's boxing back to life. But I know there's a lot of women out there. I won't get specific, but there's women out there complaining that they're not getting the right money, or they're not getting this or not getting that. I will tell you, Jessica and I, and Eddie Hearn can confirm. I would always say, we don't care about the money. We just want the opportunity. We want titles. We want the title. We want to fight for the WBA. We want to fight for the WBC, WBO, whatever, whoever. We want the titles. And Jessica and I have careers, and we do very well in our careers. And so we're not chasing money. And I think that some of the female fighters who are complaining, you got to remember, you can't just be in the game for whatever 7, 10, 11, 12 years and fight nobody. And they have a lot of certain women haven't fought anyone, and not only that, have not even knocked them out, right? So you get a girl with 25 fights and she has 4 knockouts, or you get a girl with 26 fights and she has 1 knockout, talking about she deserves XYZ money, is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Especially when they lack personality. They lack
I was going to get to that. Absolutely.
oh man, listen, this goes for guy fighters, girl fighters, whoever fighters. Listen, hire like people to bring in and interview, because a lot of these mostly guys are awful doing interviews. Fighters, I mean, they sound awful on a microphone. They can't even do interviews. That's one thing. But as far as the girls, like a lot of them don't have personalities. And if you don't have a personality, you don't have a knockout punch, and all you do is complain, guess what? You're going to get 10 grand. And that's what you deserve because you're not knocking people out. You're not, you're not sparking interest. Eddie Hearn deals with me because look, I'll tell the truth. I went after Katie first, and I made sure that Jessica got involved, and I made sure Jessica was involved and she was okay with everything, and ran my mouth and this and that, and that sells tickets. And again, I don't know a female boxing manager. I think there's one guy, but he doesn't really talk that much as of. He has lately, but he hasn't, opened his mouth that much about, soliciting fights. And I feel like I've added that part to the female game. And, I feel like Jessica's got a personality. She's well-spoken. She's college educated. She can knock people out, and I feel like, we haven't gotten a big deal. We're kind of fight by fight with DAZN and Matchroom, and, hopefully we'll seek a deal. Hopefully we get a big deal. I feel like we have a lot to offer.
It's crazy you brought that up. So I was just in New York for Canelo, and obviously, it's a Golden Boy event, partnered up with Eddie Hearn, and it's just funny to me because you just spoke on people not being able to speak, people not, being interview friendly, and you see a certain promoter come up there, and he's referring to Katie Taylor as a prospect, and I'm like, she's a unified champion, and then you see Eddie get up there, and I'm like, it's night and day, like,
right,
and I experience it all the time with fighters, like, a lot of reporters, and just like yourself, fighters have to promote themselves in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Reporters have to interview in a certain way. They want to interview everybody the same. I'm like, you can't do that. So it's crazy you say that. So the HBO card, September 8th, Cecilia main event, Clarissa Shields was on the televised portion as well. Clarissa, very animated fighter.
Yeah.
I like watching her fight. She's entertaining. But there was a lot of criticism from a certain reporter ringside, and it sparked a lot of, to be honest, kind of uncomfortable words from both the reporter and Clarissa's side. Do you feel that a lot of these reporters and media members just don't give women's boxing support? Because in the UFC, it's the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. And to me, I just don't get it. Like, I'm interested in watching women's fights just as much as I am men's fight. If you can fight, if you can promote yourself, to me, there's no difference. Do you feel that there is an issue within at least the American media for women's boxing?
All right, so this is like a 3-part answer, so I'll make it clean. Okay, so first of all, like let's start with the trainers, right? So the quote unquote elite trainers, the Robert Garcia, and again, this is no disrespect to any of those guys. Robert Garcia, he's publicly said he would never train women. Henry Ramirez publicly said he wouldn't train women, and Freddie Roach wasn't really interested in training women. Nacho Berstein, so on and so forth, right? So that's one. That's where like those kind of guys can give a female a little bit more credibility and back off the negative talk, right? Like those marquee guys, those are Hall of Fame men that can back off those bad mouthing reporters. That's one. Second of all, the UFC. Let's talk about Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is knocking people out. She has a personality. She just everything that we just talked about. She had a crazy personality. She's knocking people out, strangling them. She's doing great in the press conference and doing great in the weigh-ins, selling tickets. So that sold itself. Cyborg is a monster. Cyborg, much respect to Cyborg. She's destroying people, choking them out, knocking them out. Like, she's a personality, and a lot of female fighters respect her, and everything she does. So I think as far as like going now, let's look on the women's side, right? Those were two marquee names in UFC. If you go on the women's side, let's say Cecilia and let's say Katie Taylor. Okay, now you want to compare those to Cyborg and Ronda Rousey. First of all, their personalities don't come nowhere near Cyborg and Ronda Rousey, combined. Katie Taylor is a phenomenal athlete. She's a phenomenal ambassador to female boxing, and I have nothing but respect for her. But she does lack knockouts, and she does lack personality. All right, now if you want to talk about Clarissa Shields, she lacks knockouts. She's kind of been criticized for her tone or her I don't know, maybe she argues with fans too much. Maybe she's too vocal. So I mean, I think those, if you compare those two with the other two, Cyborg and Ronda are different animals than Katie and Clarissa. So I think female boxing needs a Mike Tyson, an Oscar De La Hoya, someone who's good looking, knocking people out, and I hate to say good looking because it really doesn't really matter to me, but I know the fans are attached to like look.
No, absolutely. Like, you have your fans that found, obviously Ronda was her personality plus her performance in the ring attached with her looks, and obviously that brought other opportunities in the entertainment industry and such.
Yeah.
So I do get it. Do you feel the way I feel that 2018 was a great year for women's boxing, given, obviously the new day and age with a lot of streaming going on? To me, Jessica and Katie were one of the first with their Showtime fight. Do you feel that 2018 did bring more attention to women's boxing, though?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Eddie Hearn has made it clear and gone out of his way. He had said, there's going to be one female fight on every show. And I think Lou DiBella is on board with that idea now. So, Lou DiBella has always supported female boxing, but I think he's trying to get at least one female fight on every one of his shows as well. But I think he kind of probably did anyways, because, I talked to Lou DiBella not that long ago. And, I have a fighter, a young girl, Summer Lynn. She's 17 years old, and we're going to turn pro in probably 7 months or so. And I'd love to work with Lou DiBella on someone like that. Lou DiBella had Heather Harding and Amanda and the Serrano sisters, I should say. So he knows his way around. Lou DiBella's, a marquee name. But like I said, 2018, phenomenal year for female boxing. I wish we could have closed it out with some more knockouts. I wish there was more knockouts. And I don't know, they had talked about, and I'm sure you saw it on Twitter, Suleiman had brought up why he doesn't turn female fights to 3-minute rounds and things like that, and 12-round fights. And, it had to do with some physicalities of things. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but, I think if there was 3-minute rounds, there'd probably be more knockouts, a lot more girls getting stopped. I don't know if that's good or bad for the sport. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if there's a physical issue with going 3-minute rounds, but that would definitely change things. But I'm not sure if we can't ask for too much yet, and I think 2018 was a massive step forward, and I think hopefully 2019 we see Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Hopefully we see Jessica McCaskill versus
Sandy Serrano, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, we would rather be with we would fight we'll fight Estetchen for her belt. We'll fight Amanda Serrano. We'd fight Katie Taylor, obviously, in a rematch. There's a lot of opportunities. We would go fight Cecilia. And that's no disrespect to any of those women. We would fight Layla McCarter. There's no disrespect to any of those women. All those women I just mentioned are marquee fighters to the.
It's just wanting the best fights for your fighter, of course.
Absolutely. We want the best fights. I want the best fights for my fighters. And I want the best opportunities for my fighters. This is my business as well, so I do eat from this, and I want the business to strive, and I want female boxing to move forward, because I'm on that boat, and I wanna move forward with it as well. So I'm excited for 2019. We're gonna see some big fights for sure.
Are we going to see some big fights in Chicago though? Because to me, I have a few issues. Women's boxing to me not being where it should be, and then. Same thing with Chicago. Like, Chicago has produced a lot of talented fighters. Obviously, Jessica being world champion. We just saw Joshua Greer fight for a regional belt, a WBC regional belt.
Yeah, shout out to Josh.
You know, Josh is a great fighter, but it almost seemed like he had to get outside of Chicago to go seek those bigger opportunities. We've seen Adrian Granados, which to me, oh my, I just wish I could talk to Adrian because
You and me both.
I wish I spoke to Eddie in Chicago and about the Chicago card leading up to it, and Adrian was offered the Jesse Vargas fight, and he didn't want to be at welterweight, wants to fight at 140, but then takes a fight with Danny Garcia at welterweight. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But you know, are we going to see big fights in Chicago though? Because I'm truly tired of seeing, like, you know, no disrespect, but I'm tired of seeing like the small like hits boxing. Like those cards are great, but you know, I want to see the Julio Cesar Chavez fights, like he fought in, you know, the United Center. I think it was the Chicago Arena back then. I want to see Soldier Field fights. They used to do them at the Cell. Like, do you think that can come back to the city of Chicago?
Yes and no. You know, and first of all, like, shout out to Warriors and shout out to Bobby Hits, because like a lot of those guys who fight like.
What is up, TBV family? Yes, YouTube has been cutting funding to their channels as of late, and with net neutrality going through its process, the internet is changing. If you want to keep your favorite channel intact, coming up with tons of content, and plus get hours and hours of extra content, head over to patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice to become a member of the TBV family and help support the channel. Peace.